Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, I am going to deal with a poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, A Musical Instrument. Elizabeth Barrett Browning was born in the year 1806. She was a poet of the Victorian age, an age which was both exhilarated and bewildered by growing wealth and power, the pace of industrial and social change, and also by scientific discovery. She was born as the eldest of the 12 children of Edward Barrett. She was very much encouraged by both her parents to develop her literary talents. She began to read and write at a very early age. In 1846, she married Robert Browning, but the marriage was necessarily secret because of the fear of her tyrannical father, and so Robert Browning and Elizabeth eloped to Italy, and they lived in Italy for the rest of her life. Her major works include Sonnets from the Portuguese. It is a series of 44 sonnets. Then Aurora Leigh, which is her masterpiece. It was published in 9 books. And then another collection, Last Poems, a collection of poems. This particular poem, A Musical Instrument, is considered to be her last work, published posthumously in the collection Last Poems. And in this poem, she uses the story of the Greek god Pan to show the dual nature of art, the beauty of art, and also the sacrifice behind it. She uses the Greek mythology. According to Greek mythology, Pan is the god of wild shepherds and flocks. He is half human and half god. And this poem, it is highly lyrical. And it revolves around this half god Pan. On the surface, the poet appears simply to retell a story in which this god Pan, he makes his musical instrument, the Pan pipe. It initially evokes a pastoral image, a peaceful pastoral image. However, in the process of creating this instrument, the Pan pipe, he also disturbs and destroys nature. So the creation of art involves destruction, according to the poet. So thus the poem focuses on the duality of art and also mankind's tendency to both create and destroy. But the poem never mentions the first part of the Pan myth. The story includes the nymph Syrinx. Initially, this god Pan, he courts Syrinx, but she refuses his advances. In order to save herself, she runs to the river's edge and asks the river nymphs for help. So these nymphs help her and they turn her into a reed. Barrett Browning, she doesn't include the origin of the reed story in this poem. But if we understand the myth, it will help the readers to analyze the poem on a different level. So in this poem, the reed represents actually a beautiful nymph. So this Pan's creation of this instrument, it can be viewed as a violent act, taking advantage of a female while consoling himself over her rejection. So the poet doesn't mention the first part of the Pan myth in this poem. So if we understand that myth, it will be helpful for us. So let's move on to the poem. What was he doing, the great god Pan, down in the reeds by the river, spreading ruin and scattering ban, splashing and paddling with hoofs of a god, and breaking the golden lilies afloat with the dragonfly on the river? So here we can see the speaker wondering over the actions of the great god Pan. What was he doing, the great god Pan, down in the reeds by the river? So, what is this great god Pan doing there? Okay, this Pan is known as the god of rustic music, shepherds, and flocks of sheep. Okay, so he is described as being desperate. What was he doing there? The great god Pan, down in the reeds by the river, spreading ruin and scattering ban, splashing and paddling with hoofs of a god. So he is described as very much desperate. His searching is wild and also out of control. Okay, he is depicted with the hoofs of a god. He splashed and spread destruction with his god feet, splashing and paddling with hoofs of a god, and breaking the golden lilies afloat with the dragonfly on the river. He crushed the beautiful water lilies, and also he scared the dragonfly. Okay, so he is very much desperate, and he is in the reeds by the river searching for something. Okay, he is searching for something. He is in the reeds by the river. Okay, as we know the myth, he is seeking the nymph Syrinx whom he chased. He is very much outraged by the transformation of Syrinx and is determined to figure out which reed she has become. Okay, here the poet brings parallelism between violation of a woman and also the violation of nature. Okay, this Pan is described as very much desperate and he is searching for something. He is spreading destruction with his god feet, and he crushed the beautiful water lilies and also scared the dragonfly. The next stanza. He tore out a reed, the great god Pan, from the deep cool bed of the river. The limpid water turbidly ran, and the broken lilies a dying lay, and the dragonfly had fled away ere he brought it out of the river. Here this great god Pan, he is tearing out a reed from the deep cool bed of the river. He tore out a reed, the great god Pan, from the deep cool bed of the river. So the speaker described the great god Pan tearing out a reed from the deep cool bed of the river. The limpid water turbidly ran. That means he is disrupting the peace of the ecosystem in a very violent way. Okay, that means there is a reference to the violence with which he wanted to assault Syrinx, nymph Syrinx. This line, the limpid water turbidly ran, it represents how the serenity of the river was disturbed when Pan made his assault, made his lusty assault. Okay, the serenity of the river was very much disturbed. The limpid water turbidly ran, and the broken lilies are dying lay. Around the feet of this god, there are broken lilies. They are now dying. And the dragonfly had fled away ere he brought it out of the river. So the dragonflies had already fled away in fear. He had destroyed them in his chaotic search for the reed. He wanted a reed and he was searching for that. Okay, so he was very much desperate to find out that reed. So he is destroying the peace of the ecosystem in a very violent way. Next answer. High on the shore sat the great god Pan, while turbidly flowed the river, and hacked and hewed as a great god can, with his hard bleak steel at the patient reed, till there was not a sign of a leaf indeed, to prove it fresh from the river. So here the speaker describes how Pan has moved from the water to the shore. He sits high on the shore and the river flows below him. High on the shore sat the great god Pan, while turbidly flowed the river. So the river, it is turbid. It is turbid now. That means the serenity of the water, it was disturbed, okay, by great god Pan. It is turbid now. As he was searching for something, its clear surface, it now became turbid. Okay, now the god have retrieved what he was searching for, and hacked and hewed as a great god can with his hard bleak steel at the patient reed. So he retrieved what that which he was so desperate for, and now is now hacking and hewing it with his knife. He is cutting off all the leaves from its edges until it is in a simpler shape, till there was not a sign of a leaf indeed to prove it fresh from the river. So he find out a reed which he considered to be that Syrinx once was. Okay, and the god he transformed that reed into another thing. The reed was, he believed that the reed was once Syrinx. So if he could not have her as a woman, he will have her now as a reed. Okay, that means it also shows the perseverance and strain that lies behind any creative work. Okay, so he is cutting off all the leaves from its edges until it is in a simpler shape. Okay, he cut it short, did the great god Pan, how tall it stood in the river, then drew the pith like the heart of a man, steadily from the outside ring, and notched the poor dry empty thing in holes as he sat by the river. So the god Pan, he is sitting by the river, and the speaker describes how Pan cuts the reed short. He cut it short, did the great god Pan, how tall it stood in the river. So the speaker was very much disturbed. The speaker exclaims, how tall it stood in the river. So it used to be grand and beautiful. Now the god Pan, it cuts the reed short. He cuts the reed short. Okay, and then he draws the pith from the reed like the heart of a man, then drew the pith like the heart of a man, steadily from the outside ring, and notched the poor dry empty thing in holes. And then what the next thing he does is to notch holes into the poor dry empty thing. Okay, that means he is able to make it into the first part of his flute. Okay, he is now preparing a musical instrument with the reed. Okay, so this reed was once, it used to be grand and beautiful. How tall it stood in the river. Now it became very short. Okay. Then next one. This is the way laughed the great god Pan, laughed while he sat by the river. The only way since gods began to make sweet music they could succeed. Then dropping his mouth to a hole in the reed, he blew in power by the river. So here we can see the god laughs over the work he has done. This is the way laughed the great god Pan, laughed while he sat by the river. So he is laughing over the work he has done. He is pleased with himself. The only way since gods began to make sweet music they could succeed. So he is very much pleased with himself and thinks that this is the only way to make sweet music. Okay, this is the only way to make sweet music. To make sweet music they could succeed. Then dropping his mouth to a hole in the reed, he blew in power by the river. So at this point he lowers his mouth to a hole and blows into it. That means it has been crafted into the desired form. Okay, he is very much pleased by his effort. Okay, he is very much happy with what he had done. Here Pan takes the life from the reed by making it hollow, but breathes it into the power of music. Okay, he takes the life from the reed, but breathes into it the power of music, the creation of art. Okay. Then the next answer. Sweet, 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 O Pan, piercing sweet by the river, blinding sweet, O great god Pan. The sun on the hill forgot to die, and the lilies revived, and the dragonfly came back to dream on the river. So here the speaker is describing the impact of the music. Okay, impact of the music made by great god Pan. Sweet, 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 O Pan, piercing sweet by the river. So the impact of the music, it is felt throughout the river and also its surrounding banks. Okay, now the speaker refers to the Pan as sweet, 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 O Pan. Piercing sweet by the river, blinding sweet, O great god Pan. So he is piercing the river with his sweetness and also blinding those who hear his music with joy. The sun on the hill forgot to die. That means the sun didn't set. And the lilies revived and the dragonfly came back to dream on the river. So the music was so beautiful that the lilies grew back and the dragonfly returned. Okay, the sun didn't set, the lilies grew back, and the dragonfly returned. So the impact of music is felt everywhere. Even though he destroyed nature by creating a flute, creating a musical instrument from the reed, now what was the result? It was the impact of the music, creation of art. Okay, so this in this stanza, the speaker shows that the beauty of the music can make up for the destruction caused by the creation of the art. Then the last stanza. Yet half a beast is the great god Pan, to laugh as he sits by the river, making a poet out of a man. The true gods sigh for the coast and pain, for the reed which grows nevermore again, as a reed with the reeds in the river. Here the speaker describes Pan as something closer to beast than man. Yet half a beast is the great god Pan, to laugh as he sits by the river. He notes that he is half a beast. Okay, this is evident through the way he is able to sit by the river and laugh. Okay. Making a poet out of a man, the true gods sigh for the cost and pain. Actually, this Pan, he is described as half a beast. Okay, that is, he is sitting by the river and is laughing. Other gods, that means other gods whom we respect, are true. That means are very much, they will be sigh for the cost and pain. They would sigh at the sight of the pain. Okay, they are not as cruel as Pan is. But now the great god Pan is laughing as he sits by the river. For the reed which grows nevermore again, as a reed with the reeds in the river. So these two lines, it mourn the loss of the reed. It will never grow again. For the reed which grows nevermore again. This will never grow again alongside its reed in the river. That means here Pan celebrates his music. Okay, whereas true gods lament the death of the reed. Okay, so the speaker is saying Pan is actually celebrating his music. He is sitting by the river and is laughing. But the true gods, they will lament the death of the reed, destruction of the reed. So the speaker concludes the poem by condemning Pan for his violence. Okay, that reed, it will never more again. It will grow never more again. So he is condemning Pan for his violence. So here the speaker talks about the importance of beauty, or wherever there is beauty, there may also be pain or destruction. Okay, wherever there is beauty, there may also be pain or destruction. So this poem thus focuses on the duality of art, mankind's tendency to both create and destroy. Okay, so it's actually a violent act, destruction of the reed by the riverside. It is a violent act. Okay, but a beautiful music. Okay, it was a result of that.